I just came from a briefing that Undersecretary General Leroy gave regarding the incidents in the period July 14 through 17 and 18 in southern Lebanon. They briefed on issues that were of grave concern. All members of the Council who spoke reflected that concern, and that is of the uncovering of a weapons cache in southern Lebanon in contravention to and clear violation of Resolution 1701. And all the indications that these are arms actively maintained by Hezbollah, and ancillary secondary incidents in which UNIFIL and the Lebanese Armed Forces efforts to investigate the situation and work in the region were impeded by Hezbollah supporters and members of Hezbollah. So these were the main issues addressed this morning. We spoke about our views, our need to collectively reinforce and support UNIFIL's efforts to implement all of the provisions of 1701, the need for all parties, that's all states and all parties in and around Lebanon, to adhere to their obligations and to the terms of the resolution. And in particular, that means no arms. And that means no violation of the arms embargo, and that means no arms that are not part of the Lebanese Armed Forces or authorized by UNIFIL should be in that area. And that violation shows how perilous the situation remains and how important that UNIFIL be supported in its efforts to ensure that there are no arms entering southern Lebanon, and beyond that, the obligation that every state has and every group has to ensure that there's a full and total arms embargo except for those arms legitimately destined for the Lebanese Armed Forces.
Mr. Ambassador, what do you say about the Lebanese letter which says that this cache of weapons was an Israeli SLA cache, and this is reminiscent of the period before year 2000?
Well, I read the letter and I heard the briefing by the Undersecretary General, and I can tell you that it's clear that there were weapons there that date from some time back according to the UN. But what's also clear is that this is an actively maintained cache. Now, I'm not sure that the letter suggests, and I don't think the fact that Hezbollah is trying to remove evidence or Hezbollah supporters are trying to impede a UNIFIL investigation suggests that this is an Israeli cache.
There was one also, just a follow-up on that. Another thing, the Israelis claim that Shib'a farms and Farshuba area hills are Israeli territory, and you said that civilians crossed Israeli territory and moved to that. What do you say about annexation of such territory into Israeli land?
Well, we were briefed also on the breach of the Blue Line and by Lebanese civilians. That also is a violation of the Blue Line, which we deplore. We deplore all violations of the Blue Line. And the issue of Sheba Farms was not addressed, and you know our view on that, and that it, in first instance, requires a demarcation of that territory between Lebanon and Syria.
That particular
Two questions. One, you said all indications are that this was active, that this is an actively maintained cache. Is that your assessment or the Undersecretary General's assessment?
That was the Undersecretary General's.
And secondly, can you comment on the issue of, the pelting by stones of UNIFIL observers? Is that an attempt to actively hamper the investigation in your view, or is it?
Well, the net effect.
Happened there?
The briefing we received made one thing clear: the investigation was impeded. And what else can you expect when UNIFIL and LAF forces are being pelted by stones? And the troubling element is that this seemed to be quite organized. This was not spontaneous. This was not simply, as some might suggest, homeowners worried about intrusions on their land or homes, that this was designed to impede the investigation, and indications also of providing cover for efforts to remove evidence. So also an element of concern. But let me return to the key point here is the importance of strict adherence to the terms of 1701 across the board. And this weapons cache demonstrates that there's a major violation at the root of what 1701 was supposed to deal with, and that is eliminating all arms except for those that belong to the Lebanese armed forces.
Would you deplore the espionage rings which have been uncovered by the Lebanese authorities?
We didn't discuss that today.
Actually, my question was about the espionage ring and the spy networks, which constitute a grave violation of 1701 and also to the sovereignty of Lebanon. How to go forward on that? Are we going to ignore them, or is there any plans to deal with this violation if it's true?
Well, again, I think there's primarily an investigation underway by the Lebanese government as to what happened, and I'm not going to comment any more other than say we'll leave it at that for the moment.
Any plans to do anything about